I object to all these bailouts. It's no longer a capitalistic system or a market economy. It's kind of a crony system where an aristocracy or plutocracy has huge privileges that the man on the street does not enjoy. I'm not a socialist, but as an economist and social observer, I have to say something is wrong with the system. And if something is wrong with the system, maybe the best is to let it go bust now. I think people misunderstand. The global economy began to slow down 18 months ago. And I could see it from the traffic pattern in Thailand and also from tourism statistics and also from retail sales and so forth and so on. There was a slowdown. And this was not only in Thailand, it was global, that there was a slowdown in growth. There was not a recession yet, but you could see that the economy was not growing much anymore, and some excess capacities were developing, and some minor debt problems were already occurring. But then the coronavirus occurred, and as always, the initial government reaction was very slow, and then they probably overdid it. But anyway, the result is now that essentially we have, as if someone was knocked out. The global economy has been knocked out and is flat at the fall of a cliff in a deep valley. In other words, if you go out, the restaurants are closed, the bars are closed.
Right.
Even the pubs in Ireland, this is a national disaster, are closed. And the gyms are closed, and people work from their homes and are told better not go out of your home, which makes sense. But you understand, these measures have contributed to a complete collapse in the global economy. And what surprised me is that 2 weeks ago, I was still reading reports that the IMF had shaved down its growth estimate for the world from, say, 2.7% to 1.7%. This is, of course, complete nonsense. We've fallen off a cliff, and economic activity is down 30 to 50% in some cases. Just walk through an airport at the present time and tell me what the traffic is like and how many people there are and how the shops are doing. It's a complete disaster. There's some sectors of the economy that have not declined by 20, 30, 40%. They're down 90%. And then you have to ask yourself, well, how come a very small virus that you can't see can wreak such havoc on the global economy? And then you go back to essentially the last 30 years and you observe how for the last 30 years the world became more and more leveraged. And starting in 1998, we had the bailout of the leveraged hedge fund LTCM. And after that, we had one bailout after the other by central banks. Something didn't go so well. Immediately, they eased the monetary policies. And in the course, they lowered continuously interest rates and allowed the leverage to go up. And the low interest rates did actually not encourage investments, but it encouraged speculation, because as interest rates are very low, the returns to investors are very low. But there is a way to increase these returns if you leverage up your investments. And this is part of the problem now. that this little virus has essentially led to deleveraging. So what does the Fed and the other central banks do again? They create unlimited QE to bail out not the small guy that has a shop and goes bankrupt because now he has no customers and still has to pay some rent and so forth. He doesn't bail out these people. He bails out, or the Fed bails out, the leveraged hedge funds that had positions that were leveraged up to 100 times. That is happening at the present time. And, you know, when people say, well, there will be a recovery, yes, there may be a recovery, but it's not sure. And if the market suddenly recovers strongly, it's actually a bad thing for the whole economy and for the whole society, because once again it will show that people of privilege and with connections, the hedge funds, banks and the Fed, is one and the same, you understand? They all help each other. And so I think that maybe this time, this is going to be a crisis which the Fed cannot solve. And if that is the case, then we're looking at essentially, yes, the depression that will last for some time, and it will be painful. Well, for some people it will end reasonably well. The problem with these bailouts is, how do you structure a bailout that is fair? And this has been throughout economic life a very difficult issue to resolve. You can't just hand over $500 billion to Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, and he can do with that money whatever. He's a slush fund. He can do like a mafia boss whatever he wants. And he doesn't need to disclose until 6 months later. You understand? I think there should be accountability and it should be transparent. But this was already in the 2008 bailout, that banks got the money so that they could continue to pay out the bonuses, never mind they fired the employees, and some companies that were close to the government. And that I object to all these bailouts. It's no longer a capitalistic system or a market economy. It's kind of a crony system where an aristocracy or plutocracy has huge privileges that the man on the street does not enjoy. I'm not a socialist, but as an economist and social observer, I have to say something is wrong with the system. I think that we will go down in economic activity. And I'd say with all the money printing that will be taking place and all the government's interventions, I think we'll move a step closer towards socialism. And before we get there, we'll probably get some price increases. You know, because in this situation, there will be shortages in future, not now, but in future. And even now for some products. And when inflation picks up and when the bond market tanks, the Treasury or the Fed will have to step in and buy out these bondholders. And that will eventually push interest rates up and lower the confidence of people. So my idea is that eventually the dollar will tumble. But between now and the tumble could be 3 days or it could be 3 years. And then the question arises, against what will the dollar tumble? Because the other currencies are probably not much better or much worse. So I would say the dollar is likely to tumble against precious metals. But it hasn't happened yet. And I have to say, of course, gold is up today, but its performance, given the money printing we had over the last 20, 30 years, and especially after 2008, and more recently, given this money printing and this handout that they're proposing in the amount of $4 trillion in the US, gold should have performed much better. And you know, this $4 trillion handout that they're discussing, in principle is negative for bonds, for treasuries. But the treasury market up today is up. In other words, interest rates have gone down. So a lot of things are happening, which are happening now, but they may not happen in 6 months' time, or they may lead to erroneous confidence in the system, which is misplaced. And by the way, you and I and nobody knows this coronavirus. Maybe it will mutate, and maybe it will become very even more contagious or infectious, and maybe more unpleasant. We don't know. Because these viruses, if they're well programmed by whoever that might be, they have a tendency to mutate over time.